All right. Welcome to everyone who is watching this on YouTube. And hopefully here in a minute, those of you who follow us on Facebook will be able to join us by hitting the links that are going to be available here in just a second. Should be available now, I hope. But the short version of what we're doing today is we are having a little interview time with one of our Life City people, Missy Kim. Her and her husband, Seke, are part of our church, and they are a homeschooling family. And they have joined us from Las Vegas, where they left a life of gambling addiction. I'm just kidding.
I've never gambled, actually.
probably a better move. When this whole thing began with this COVID-19 quarantine, obviously here in Santa Clara and Silicon Valley, it's been a 2-week ordeal of being in this shelter-in-place thing. We just got news last night and today that that's going to continue through the entire month of April. And so thousands of families like mine who were not homeschool families suddenly became homeschool families. And most of us were not planning on becoming homeschool families, obviously. And so there's lots of families who are trying to figure out and navigate this whole thing. And I just asked Missy to join us for a little bit of Q&A. Obviously, we would have preferred to have done this in person, but out of respect of social distancing and being considerate of each other's families, we use the Zoom technology that we have available to do this remotely. So thank you for joining us, Missy. Good morning, and good to have you with us. I'm just going to dive right in here to some of the questions that we talked about and give you an opportunity to share a little bit of your experience. And hopefully, what I hope is that families who are able to watch this will walk away with a little bit of encouragement, feeling like they're not alone, that this isn't something that they can't do, that they can in fact do this, and hopefully have a little bit of community around this and some resources to feel successful in doing this. But why don't you just tell me a little bit about just your family. You have 2 students at home that are being homeschooled. Why don't you just tell me a little about just your family and how long you guys have been a homeschool family?
We've always homeschooled, and they are in 8th and 12th grade. It's easier to remember that Derek's in 12th grade than Betty in 8th grade because we don't think about grades very often, but
right.
he's getting ready to graduate. So
exciting, a little bit scary.
Yeah, a little bit. He's going to be going to the community college. So yeah, we got it.
Very cool.
That's our next journey.
Yeah. And your daughter is in 8th grade, like my oldest daughter, about to start her high school years soon as well, right? So that's another pretty big transition.
For us, it's the same. Like, yeah,
right.
There's no like going to a different building or no change in friends or anything like that. It's all the same. Same couch.
Arrange the room a little bit just to be like, hey, now you're in high school.
Yeah, no, same couch.
I love it. Well, obviously, there's a lot of different reasons that families, before all this COVID-19 situation, there's a lot of reasons that families choose to do homeschooling. Right now, that wasn't a choice for most families who are in this situation, but I want people to see some of the benefits of what they can take away from this. So what were some of the reasons that led you and your family to deciding to become a homeschool family or deciding to do this form of education with your children?
Right. So I had actually decided when I was in high school that if I ever had kids that I would be homeschooling them. I had an aunt that was homeschooling her child, and I was like sold right there. School wasn't always easy for me, but I did graduate as valedictorian at my vocational high school. So I was one of 13 valedictorians there. But yeah, I just had watched how the school system worked, and I noticed that for me, school was a struggle in my younger days, and then somehow I came out on top. And for friends and family that I had, that school was extremely natural and easy for them, and they didn't need to study. They almost didn't graduate high school. And to me, that was a little bit of a broken system. And why were they not graduating or coming close to not graduating was basically because they weren't challenged. And they felt like the things that they were being taught or that they were supposed to be learning weren't
Mm.
beneficial to them. So I just thought there had to be a better way.
You had one of the things that you said when we were kind of going over some of the things getting ready for this. You said something when I asked you at one point about how long have you been a homeschool family. You responded in a way that I just love the perspective you had about it. You said something about we've been a homeschool family since Derek, your oldest child, was born. Would you talk about that for just a second? Because I kind of like what you were saying in that kind of a line of thought.
Right. So, I mean, the way I see it is everybody is homeschooling their child until the day that they choose to put their child into school, be it
Right.
preschool or, kindergarten. Um, from the time they're born, nobody questions, are you able to teach your child to talk? Are you able to teach your child to walk? Are you able to teach your child basic colors, numbers, and letters?
Yeah.
That's not a question that anybody asks. We all feel like parents are ready to teach their children those things.
Mm.
I just don't see that changes that they turn 5, that all
Mm.
of a sudden, as a parent, you're no longer qualified to teach your child. That's a very strange way to think. You've taught them successfully for 5 years, but suddenly they're in kindergarten and that's changed.
I really love your perspective on that. And one of the things that with our family that we had kind of an attitude, I don't know if you even know this, but my first job in ministry, I was a children's pastor. And we had children in our children's ministry that came from all kinds of different educational backgrounds. A lot of them were in public schools, a lot of them were in Christian schools, a lot of them were in private non-Christian schools, and a lot of them were homeschooled. There was a large homeschool community in our church when we first started in ministry. And the thing that my wife and I observed, because we weren't even parents when we first started in ministry, but the thing that Tiffany and I observed was that all these kids from all these different kinds of backgrounds, there wasn't necessarily one distinct group of educational formats that seemed to be producing a more successful child. What was the common thread with the kids who seemed to be growing into successful teenagers and then to adults were children whose parents were involved, who did not feel like whatever educational format they chose, that was them abdicating that responsibility to somebody else. They still saw themselves as being the primary educators of their children. And so I really love your perspective on that you were always a homeschool parent from the moment that you had a child and began teaching them how to talk and read and know basic numbers and letters and colors. And I stand by that I think that no matter what educational format you choose, obviously we don't have much of a choice right now. Everybody's kind of homeschooling in some format, but you as the
Yeah.
parent are the primary educator. And I'd say that even that's kind of been our perspective as a church, that you as the parent are the primary pastor. You are the primary discipler.
Right.
It is your job, first and foremost, mom, first and foremost, dad, to teach your children spiritual things. We as a church want to come alongside of you to help equip you and to give your kids something to look forward to grow in that together. But I love your perspective on that you were a homeschooler from day one. You made decisions later on that may have changed that, but you should still always see yourself in that respect. So I really like that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what a normal day looks like for you? Because I think for a lot of parents that are in this situation, they don't even know how to get into a good rhythm. And because of some of the distance learning resources that I know that Santa Clara Unified in particular are putting out, there are specific times where they tune into certain calls to go over lessons and stuff. But what does a normal day look like for you? What are some rhythms that you have found that have worked for you?
It's changed definitely over the years, depending on our needs at the time. Currently, with the kids being a little bit older, they stay up a lot later, so our school day starts later.
Right.
um, it used to start right at 10 o'clock, everybody at the couch, 10 o'clock. It's been moving till about 10:30, sometimes later. Sometimes they're dressed, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they eat breakfast, most of the time they don't. um, but right now they're pretty independent in their schooling. So Betty actually just wakes up and picks up her school books from next to her bed and sits in her bed and does her schoolwork.
Awesome.
And then comes out to the living room to check things. So it depends, but a basic day is get up, do your schoolwork, and then we eat lunch and have a little bit of a break. And then before we had shelter in place, it was run off to many activities.
Right.
So, that's a big thing right now, is that even though our morning hasn't changed, our evenings have definitely changed. So, we're used to 5 days a week of ballet, and a couple days a week of climbing for Derek, and 3 days a week of doing live action role playing for Derek. And so
Mhm.
7 days of activities that suddenly, we don't have. So a big thing right now, of course, it seems like, oh, homeschooling, really, the kids don't get socialized. Well, none of us are socializing
Right.
right now. Generally, you can see that my kids are out of the house and doing a lot of things. So that's something I don't want people to leave this experience thinking, is that
Right.
homeschoolers are holed up in their house all the time, and they don't ever go out and live real life, because that's
Mhm.
not true. Generally, homeschool kids are running errands with their parents. They're helping do the grocery shopping, or going to the bank, and they're doing real life with
Right.
their parents, in addition to the classes that they would be taking. There's so many different ways to get enrichment, like science classes, the library. They're out of the house a lot more than they are at home.
Yeah. What I really like about that is that it's understanding that education is far more than just academic. It's life on life.
Yeah.
It's doing things together, and you've heard the expression about things that are caught rather than taught. And I feel like what you describe, obviously circumstances have changed for everybody, but in terms of the being able to go out like you were just describing, but it's embracing that there are a lot of these things that are caught in the process of doing life together, rather than just, now I taught you this, and so now it's showing, it's modeling, it's doing life together. So what are, and you've probably learned a lot of these over the years, and I'm not looking for you to say this as a you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way, but what are some, if you can make some strong suggestions or recommendations, what are some, like, the big do's and don'ts of homeschooling that you encourage parents to consider right now?
Well, right now, I would say mostly that everybody's under a lot of stress.
Mm,
And so I didn't realize during that first week how stressed we were, because I felt like, well, nothing's changed, and we actually have more time at home. Like, how could this be stressful? But
right.
because at the time, the news was coming in so quickly, and every time you opened up Facebook or anything, you were being fed new news and new information about what was happening, and that was actually taking a toll on us as parents. And so that was making, for me, it was making it very difficult to focus on our school time,
Right.
which is only about 2 hours out of our day. So you would think you could focus, but actually, it was quite difficult. So I would say for everybody else that their life has completely changed, where all of a sudden people are working from home that didn't used to work from home.
Mm.
People are figuring out this distance learning thing. Technology is glitching. Right now, mine keeps freezing, so hopefully it's not on your end.
No, you're coming in great on my side.
So, so I know everybody's facing all of this and trying to get 4 kids on one computer, kind of thing, because not every house has a computer for each kid.
Right.
So it's going to be stressful, and just stay calm. And the biggest thing is just to love the kids through this time, because if they're getting their basic math and they're doing a little bit of reading every day, they're going to be okay. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that's your basics, right? If a kid can pick up a book and read, then they can learn anything they need to learn.
that's
So
great.
if they've got their basic math, then they can do their taxes, right? So
Yes,
since we're in tax season.
yes. Very
But
back to that life on life.
right. So, I mean, of course, there's fun things to do, and it's beneficial to learn biology and, different types of science and all these different things. But if you know your basics of math and reading, then they're going to be able to learn. And then, when they're a little older, you throw in some language arts so they can communicate correctly with others. So,
That's good. That's really good. Um, Obviously, and I see this in my own life, just as I've grown as a parent and watching my kids grow up. As you know, our oldest is the same age as Betty, and all that to say that I've watched them grow. But as I kind of look back at, even just our early pictures of us as a family, I realize how much this experience as a parent has shaped me. What are some things that you have learned as a homeschool mom, as a mom in general, maybe that you'd be comfortable sharing with everybody today? What were some things that you've taken away on a personal level from this?
Um, Gosh, it is a hard question. I remember reviewing it yesterday, actually, and thinking, I don't know. So, I mean, you always learn things better when you're teaching it to somebody else.
That's good.
So history was something that I didn't particularly care for in school. And
Yeah.
so I don't have a lot of that stuck in my head. So that was something I relearned as I taught the kids. And we don't focus on dates and, like drill and kill type of stuff. To me, it's more about looking and seeing how, when it comes to history, how did the people get where they're at?
Mhm.
Why did these things happen? And then
Yeah.
where is Jesus in that time? And how did it affect people and their faith? So yeah, that was something that I certainly didn't get when I was learning in school. And then just a big parenting thing for me, that I'm not always right and I don't always have all the answers.
That's good. That's
So, and I think it's important for the kids to know that we don't stop learning because designated, I'm sorry, excuse me, designated school time is over, or because we have graduated from high school or college, right? Like
Mhm.
you're learning for your entire life. So letting them know that, like, wow, I've never thought of that thing that you're asking right now, but let's go find that answer. So
Yeah. Uh-oh. I think you did freeze up there, Missy. Can you still hear me?
if I have gotten something wrong, and letting them know, hey, I just
Uh-oh.
got that thing wrong. Let's go back over this and
Okay.
see from the new information that we have, how this
Okay.
works.
We did get all of that. You did glitch out there for just a little bit for part of that, just so you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It keeps telling me my internet connection's unstable, but I don't know why. It may be because I'm in the back of the house, so I don't know.
We can blame Comcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in the last couple of questions, I've really only got two other things I want to run by you. Number one, there's a lot of resources right now, and I think a lot of families are, quite frankly, inundated with the amount of stuff that the school district is throwing at them, and advice that other people are giving them. And I don't want to add to the pile of things that people are trying to sift through, but if you could have like two or three or four maybe resources that you know of that you've found as reliable to kind of navigate or to help your child navigate through some of the materials they're going through. What are just some basic things that you would suggest any parent in this position to kind of help them and their child through this season of education?
Well, I think right now I would keep things very simple unless you were planning to transition to full-time homeschooling.
Right.
If you're just right now doing school at home with the school district, then I would just stick to mostly what they're providing right
Mhm.
now, without adding, you don't want to add extra stress to everything that is going on. I think the biggest thing to realize is that every parent in the world is going through this right now. Like, we are certainly not alone.
Mhm.
Um, and you're certainly not alone in doing, suddenly being thrown into this school at home. And something that I've talked about a few different times too was that the homeschool community as a whole would never guide somebody to suddenly start schooling the way that the world has had to do this. And
Right.
generally, if a parent comes to us and says, hey, I'm really thinking about pulling my kid from school, we would like to begin homeschooling, everyone would suggest a time of deschooling. And that can range anywhere from a month to multiple months. And the public school and private school parents at this time were not given that option.
Right.
Everybody had to dive in, and not just dive in, but dive in under stress. So I wouldn't be going around and searching for, big curriculums or more math books and more language arts books. I would stick to, if the school is giving you some basic activities to do each day, I would stick to those. And then if you want something fun, because your kid needs some guidance throughout the day just to so you can get your work done, kind of a thing, then go find some fun things for them to do. Don't be afraid to let them video game.
Yeah.
Being video games teach so much. Minecraft, I'm a huge fan of Minecraft.
Yes.
And things that Minecraft teach to kids, you learn about biomes and the layers in the soil. You learn about different animals. You learn that you need to eat or you will die. Like, there's just so much in the math that the kids learn because of the crafting tables and how the crafting tables work in Minecraft. So, it's fine. And the kids need a way to release the stress that they have as well. But if people are wanting different sources, YouTube is huge. Derek learns most all of his science off of YouTube. He just decides he wants to learn about a topic like Chernobyl and goes and starts looking it up and goes down the YouTube rabbit hole. So, I mean, what better way to learn than when you want to learn it? Because he will have learned way more during his, rabbit hole on YouTube than he would if I sat and read it to him out of a book. So,
what's really encouraging to hear you say that too, and I've been taking notes on this conversation for my own benefit, honestly, but for all the times in our history that this kind of a situation could happen, we really are fortunate that it happened at a time where we have things like YouTube and even just the ability to have this kind of a Zoom conversation right now. I mean, if this had happened in my childhood, none of this would have been available. And I just really think that it's fortunate that we have all these resources and tools and access to other people's hard work, via YouTube and probably thousands of other places we could send them. So I do find that really interesting. One last question for you, Missy. What do you hope, eventually, for most people, this has an expiration?
right.
Most families, they're praying, are able to transition their child back into some more formal, structured, conventional, and by conventional, I mean, common form of education, public school, their former private schools, etc. What do you hope they kind of take away from this, both the children and the parents, just the families in general? What do you hope are some of the takeaways from this experience that they're in right now as homeschool families in a temporary context?
Right. Well, often I get asked, well, how do you do it? How can you homeschool? I can't homeschool. And the thing that they're not realizing is I get my kids first thing in the morning when they're fresh and ready to go. And when they're trying to do school with their kids is after a long day of school. They're worn out. Mom and dad have both been at work. They're worn out. They're trying to get food on the table and get the kids to their activities. So of course, the homework time is a fight. And everybody kind of went into this school at home time that they're in with that, knowing that the kids know me and mom, and we fight when it's time to do homework, right? Or it's a struggle, or, oh, homework, it's a bummer. I've been at school all day and then I have to do homework. And so, everybody's kind of gone into this with these preconceived ideas about how it needs to be. And so I hope that at the end of this, more people realize that they can spend time with their kids teaching them, that there's a lot to learn about their kids' hearts when they're teaching them, especially if they, are reading the Bible with them and read some scriptures and then ask the kids for feedback on that. And the things that will come out of them will just, blow you away. Their understanding of history, And, well, and the questions that they ask, well, why would that happen? Or, well, what if they had done this instead? So I think that parents will find that actually, their kids have a lot to teach them, and that they want to spend the time with their parents, learning from their parents.
Man, I really appreciate that, Missy. The irony, and I've had to just realize that as well. Just even as you were saying that, thinking about this last week or so that our kids have been doing the distance learning through the resources that the district's provided us. And this is going to sound really crass, but I don't have a better way of saying it. I think a lot of parents are realizing I don't actually hate my kids.
Yes.
They're actually pretty decent little human beings, and I think what you said is so wise. Most families are getting their kids when they're not at their best and when their kids are not at their best. After they've all been working all day, the kids been in school all day. I know when I get home from work, like my brain is done. Like I don't want to have to figure anything out. I don't want to have to take on any new projects, and we've developed a rhythm in the kind of modern education system most of us embrace, that we are interacting with our kids when neither of us are at our best. And this has provided us an opportunity to break out of that pattern. And it does, I think what you said has a lot of wisdom, because I think we have to make a conscious choice not to assert these preconceived ideas of this is how this works. I got to admit, I've noticed that in my kids, and would like to take more advantage of that and take advantage of the fact that I do have them more at their best and vice versa with me. Great. I really appreciate that. I took down a couple of notes just from your responses. I'm going to kind of go over the things that I took away from the talk today, just for my own personal benefit. Hopefully this is a nice little summary for other parents who might be listening. The first thing I put was just don't stress. We've been put in a lot of circumstances that we didn't choose. Take a little bit of a breather. Don't make more pressure than necessary. Kind of connected with that was the deschooling comment that you made, and we didn't really get that opportunity to kind of break out of the patterns of the stress that we were already in before this happened. But maybe find some small ways to deschool, to interact with our kids without it having to be, you got to get this done, you got to get these things taken care of. Life on life lessons, trying to just do life with them, do errands with them. Obviously, you talked about running errands outside the house. That's not as much of an option right now as maybe it would have been outside of the circumstance, but still finding some opportunities to just do life and run errands with them, even if it's just within the home, projects within the home. I like what you said about keeping it simple and have some fun with it. And then I just put YouTube as your friend.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else you would add to that in summary, just kind of in a brief synopsis, or is that pretty good, encapsulating some of the high points of what you were trying to share today?
I think that covered everything today, and I have a lot of material. We could go on forever, so.
Absolutely. Well, I may share some more links and stuff to other resources that you find available that you would recommend. I may post some of that to our lifecitynow.org website later this week. But just want to end this by saying thank you, Missy, not just for sharing your time with us today, but for just your investment in your family and how that is, regardless of how a family chooses to educate their children, how that is a strong model for what families can be and should be, both in our church and through anybody checking in today. So thank you for that. Thank you for showing your heart for your family and for other families. It means a lot to us, and I benefited from this today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to go ahead and close the live call now, but thank you everybody for watching, and God bless you guys. We are praying for you. If there's anything we can do to be a blessing to you and your family, we wanted to continue to try to help you through this crazy time. You can do this. God gave you your kids for a reason. He didn't give them to somebody else to educate them. That doesn't mean you're a bad parent if you send your kids to another school, but you are equipped as you are to be the resource your children need during this season. So don't be ashamed and don't be intimidated. You've got it. And if you need help, you're not alone. Thank you. God bless. And we will talk to you again soon.